Hey everyone, and welcome to the Non-Fungible Rebels. I'm very happy to finally meet Chopper, who's in the studio today. Nice to meet you, Chopper. Finally, it's been a while. We've communicated a lot together while you were beyond the funk avatar, and now, yeah, we see your face. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. No, yeah, likewise. Nice to meet you. And it's definitely been a long couple years, but I'm glad that we've finally been able to connect face to face. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like when we were talking, we kind of we're talking about the fact that we spend so much time online and communicate online so much more than in real life, which is kind of that's what's happening, I think, more or less with everyone. and
Yeah.
and it kind of, yeah, it brings different perspectives in terms of life relationships, online relationships, fake ones, real ones while online, and all that kind of, the whole mixture of different diverse kind of options that can happen in the space. So
Hmm.
yeah, let's start from the very beginning. Let's start from, I mean, everyone has different journeys about how they ended up in the Web3 space, right? Like everyone is coming
For
from
sure.
different places. They all have a story behind it. So what was yours?
Yeah, no, that's oh man, I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I guess my entry point into Web3 was early on, closer to 2017, kind of when that bull run ended. And I came in shortly after, or like in the tail end, and started to kind of get interested. And I had already had some exposure to crypto prior to that, but just very basic exposure, nothing crazy, nothing too in depth. And that that's when I started to get more interested in the technology, and with a technology background, and being a developer, and coming from a design background, my interest was really how can I use this technology to really grow my craft, and become better at what I do, and obviously build cooler products. So that was always kind of my intention with, when I looked into crypto and Web3 in the first place. And it definitely wasn't called Web3 back then.
Yeah.
But it was more just the crypto side of things. And, I messed around with it for a little bit, and I enjoyed it, but it was more on the financial side because that's what really like pulls you in, right? I think there's kind of a gambling aspect to, well, not kind of, but there's a major gambling aspect to it all, and I think that's where people kind of get addicted to the to
Yeah,
crypto.
true.
Um, and that's kind of what pulled me in, but um, that faded pretty quick. I think there wasn't really much going on in the markets back then. Not a whole lot of builders were really interested in using the technology outside of the financial aspect, right? A
Mm,
lot of it was just solely financial based, and that
yeah.
wasn't really something I was interested in, to be honest. I've never actually been interested in finance, or any part of finance. My
Mm,
family actually plays a heavy role in finance. There's a lot of real estate in my family, and my dad's an educator and a broker for real estate. So that was always kind of something that I've just didn't want to get involved in whatsoever. So I'll try to cut the story down a little bit, but so a couple years later, same job. I'm kind of in the same industry, same job, same everything, and I just started to get really bored. I just started to get really bored with what was going on in the Web2 space. Everything that I was confronted with, from a technical perspective, wasn't like,
mm,
nothing was cutting edge anymore from my perspective.
yeah.
Everything I was working on was just like a cookie cutter, same old, over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
really, like deep inside me, I just needed to get out of that, And I think once I had that desire inside of me, like that, and that started to grow. that's when I started to kind of look outside of my comfort zone and see where I could, fit in other sectors or other industries, right? And that's when crypto kind of came along again, and I started to dig into it again. And it actually started off with Dogecoin started to kick off again, and Dogecoin started to become popular again. And I think that was mostly an Elon Musk,
Yeah.
grift that was going on, whatever he was doing. But that kind of pulled me in because I bought a bunch of Dogecoin, and then I was gambling on that and expecting some major returns and all that, and it ended up happening. But that really like pulled me back in like quick, because all of a sudden I had this liquidity, I had the opportunity, I started networking again in the industry, I started connecting with other developers and other builders, and that's really like where things started to kind of spiral. And that was, I think, early 2021, maybe like March or February of that year. So I wasn't like super early on this run, like a lot of people were.
Yeah.
I was somewhat like right when things started to kick off. So I didn't have the opportunity to get into CryptoPunks and into all that kind of stuff. But I was able to really connect with some of the people that are considered influential in the space now, and I was able to connect with them quite early, which I think was what was a blessing, right, at the time. So kind of fast forward a little bit, I once I really started to get involved with crypto and feel like it was where I wanted to be, that's when I started to build products. And the first products I started to build, as were for the CryptoPunks community.
Yeah.
And, that to me was just a fun way to involve myself in a community and start building and using my talents without actually having to like create a business, create a product, create a all the shit that comes with it, right? I'm allowed to swear on here, I assume.
Absolutely. It's
Okay,
I know
perfect.
my guests, so I've labeled it as explicit podcast. So like,
Perfect.
I know
I
who's
love
coming.
swearing. I love
Rebels are swearing
it.
usually
For
very
sure.
much.
So that was exciting to me. It was like being able to just build on top of a brand that already existed, and in this case it was actually the CryptoPunks brand that I was building on top of, not really the Funks brand, because we forked that and made our own community. Well, Zagabond did, right? So that was exciting to me, and that's really kind of what got my desire burning, was being able to build in this community centric way and be able to like build with people that I had never met, that I don't know their names, I don't know where they live, I don't know what they look like, and make cool stuff, right? There was something really unique about that way of building and collaborating that I hadn't experienced before in my career. Especially kind of like the off the cuff, on the fly, bootstrap type building. Like that was really appealing to me. And that's really what the CryptoPunks started that fire inside of me, right? And that's why I'm still such a big proponent of the CryptoPunks community, and why I'm still such a big part of it. So fast forwarding a bit, that really brought me into creating. I just keep getting these phone calls. My apologies.
No worries.
Yeah. So that really got me thinking into like, okay, how can I use my talents to build my own product now, and how can I use these communities that I've built to kind of leverage my skills and leverage the products that I'm building, and be able to get them, get more exposure, and get them brought to more eyes and more people. So yeah, that's when I started building Floored Ape. And actually, Floored Ape originally was a project that I built for myself, and who at the time was my co-founder of Floored Ape, and her and I just we wanted a way to track our portfolios, and we wanted a way to track our NFTs and the assets that we were buying, the art we were buying, the collectibles, etc. And so I built like a very basic iteration of what is now Floored Ape, which at the time just ran in like a terminal. So you needed a little bit of technical knowledge to understand it and that kind of stuff. But that really like snowballed, and you know, I ended up registering a company here in Canada and building the app under that company. And you know, since it's been almost 2 years, like we're still building every day. We've managed to stay self-sufficient with no, like basically no overhead. Everyone's on a percentage of our token mint prices, and as far as our team goes, I mean, and you know, everyone's extremely willing to just participate and build together without this overly controlling like central point, right? We just kind of all collaborate, and we're able to sustain this project and continue building it, which is very unique, I think. And I don't think you can pull that off in many industries other than crypto or what people call Web3.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's kind of my story.
That's yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, I think you pointed out a few things that kind of, you know, resonated with me in a sense that like, first of all, the funks community is I think it's because of its history, because what, you know, the way they kind of, you know, ended up still being around after everything that happened. It kind of shows the type of people that it attracts and the type of people that are in there, right? So I think that's a good indication. And also, kind of, you know, you mentioned community centric products and kind of, you know, being part and building as part of a community. And I think that's another very important thing, because you can end up, you know, building stuff that no one needs, but if you're building it with the community and within the community and doing something that they're actually looking for, it's a completely different sort of, you know, results at the end. So definitely. So I guess what's you mentioned Floored Ape, and you know, we mentioned in the introduction the Not Larva Labs as well, and I think that probably was one of the focal points that kind of, you know, elevated the community after everything that happened, right? It kind of, you know, it was one of the things that kept it alive and helped it strive later on after all the whole kind of, you know, issues that they had in the beginning. So I don't know, like, how does it feel? Like, you know, you ended up building Not Larva Labs together with Polly and someone else, or
well, the original team was Polly, myself, and someone who was around back then named Loafgren. That's the original team, and then Ryder Rips and Kenobi came on board shortly after.
Okay, cool. So I remember when it launched, like, you know, the whole, what was happening on Twitter Spaces, what was happening on Twitter in general, kind of, you know, I usually, like, I'm not really into all these stories until they come to me. So, like, if just by scrolling I see something happening and I see a trend, it means it's big enough, right? Otherwise, like, you know, I wouldn't probably keep seeing it again and again and again. So when Larva Labs launched, like, the whole, like, everything funk related was all over the place. Everyone was kind of, you know, super excited. I remember even I was, like, you know, listening to these spaces and then kind of, you know, sending messages like, oh, holy shit, like, this is really cool, this is really nice. And everyone was super excited about it. And I think it's also kind of, you know, we keep talking about sort of keeping control and independence and not depending on marketplaces and all that stuff. So I anything that kind of helps people to detach from OpenSea, to sort of get that alternative options outside that centralized entities. I think that's always cool to have this diversity of options and choices. So I think that's really kind of bringing value to the whole space in general. Other than that, let's kind of look into some of the questions that your fans, so to speak, ended up dropping in on Twitter. But before that, I think you mentioned one question, and I think we have spoken together about this probably many times, and it's this big question of why the hell are we still here? Like there are lots of things that personally I don't like about this space, and probably you too. And sometimes it makes us really frustrated and kind of really sad and angry. But then it's been 6 years already that we've been around, and it's kind of it's not about even thinking about leaving yet. So what keeps you here?
I'm just in too fucking deep. I'm just in so deep, and I'm the most stubborn guy you'll ever meet, and I just don't give up, and really, that's not really all there is to it. There's so many negatives in this space right now. I feel
Yeah.
like when the market really took a dove took a dive, the only thing that really remained was the bad things, right? All the good things kind of left with it. And really, at the end of the day, to be quite honest, there weren't many good things in the first place. And I'm not trying to be super negative about all of this, but this is like I said at the beginning, one of the sole reasons why I don't align myself with financial markets. Because in my opinion, money is the devil. It is the root of all evil, and it brings out the worst in just about every person. And that to me is good enough reason to just avoid it altogether. And obviously, there's the other side of things where you got to pay your bills and you got to feed your family and you got to, there's keep a roof over your head. So to me, it was more about striking a balance, right? And trying to stay away from all the negativity while focusing on the positive aspects of the space, which, like I said, now is a little more difficult because there's basically nothing positive left. If you're involved in the crypto or NFT market right now, or shitcoins or whatever, just open your Twitter and you'll see it, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Open your DMs, even if you're popular or you have a following over 10,000, just open your DMs and you'll see it. So it's it's disheartening, I think, and I think it really did push out a lot of good people from this space. But I think that these tests can often these tribulations and these like trials and these things that we go through often make us stronger and teach us very valuable lessons going forward that I think we'll be able to use once the market does adjust itself and things start to pick up again. And I think those lessons really are that, for me at least, the lesson, I think everybody's going to learn their own lessons, obviously. But my lessons really were to focus on the technology, stay the fuck away from all the drama, just stay out of it completely. I'm not saying choose a side and stay out of it, or like be neutral and stay out of it, or any of that. It's just like stay out of it, right? Because then nobody can accuse you of anything. You know what I mean? So it's very rare that I get accused of things in my DMs or on the timeline, because I just stay out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that I had already noticed, because it was kind of, it's for me, for example, it has always been tricky to sort of, be part of it, but at the same time, sort of, stay unbiased, especially when I'm writing, stories and articles about stuff, right? Or kind of, to get the right sort of perception of things, because sometimes people may think like differently from what it is actually, right? So it has always been kind of, a balancing act in terms of getting involved, but at the same time sort of, staying neutral. And I think in your case, it's kind of, you have managed to be kind of, an active community member, but at the same time sort of, really detached from all the drama and all the conversations and kind of, the emotional roller coaster and the arguments, the fights, and all that stuff. Which to me, it's interesting you mentioned that, there are so many bad things, but this is one of those bad things that kind of has been engraved in the culture so much that many people think it's part of this culture. It's like, oh, what
Yeah.
do you mean? Like, you can't be without it. It's just part of it. It's one of the trends and the kind of, mm, characteristics of the space. And I think it's just as you said, it's because of the money, because in bear markets making money is harder, people get wrecked more, they are more vulnerable, more sensitive, and then that little money that is left, the fight for it is much kind of, fiercer, I guess. And that's when people become much more uglier. It's fight for the money, but also for the attention and for the kind of, influencer status, whatever it is, right? So the scarcer everything becomes, then now they have less people that are paying attention, so then they have to fight harder to get that attention of those few people left, right? So anyway, but on a positive note, I think, like, as you said, like, we're still around, we're not leaving anywhere, although a bit disheartening, but still. But what are the biggest challenges in building in Web3? You mentioned like the good side of things, right? That it's kind of, it's not complicated. It's kind of, you get to meet the right people. You can do it together with the team and all that stuff, which is really, really great. But I'm sure like the space also brings certain challenges that are kind of, on top of everything else, because it's this space that is specific around some stuff. What are the biggest challenges for you as a builder in the space?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, a lot of the benefits actually introduce a lot more challenges as well, right? The
Mm,
benefit of decentralization actually adds more challenges when it comes to building on top of the technology. Um, eh, Same with, the bootstrap nature and the nature of meeting your teammates online, that live across the world. That's that makes things difficult, right? That's a challenge. But these are all challenges that I think, like I mentioned before, make us stronger. Probably the biggest challenge that I've dealt with in this space is, um, I think it's two pronged to a certain degree, because there's so many technical challenges I deal with.
mm,
Um, but like when it comes to running a business and creating a project in this space, the largest challenge that I've noticed is the financial aspect, and that there's so many expectations put on you as a founder or as a builder that you're going to somehow give people returns on their investments.
yeah.
And that's really difficult to deal with, because I often speak very clearly about this with my audience and say, I don't care about your bags, I don't care how much money you make, I don't care what your stupid fucking animal picture is worth. um, the purpose that I have here is to build, and it's not to make you money, it's to
Mm,
give you product, and it's to give you something that works, functions, and may improve the quality of your life, or even just the quality of your trading.
Mm.
So that's been like really the thing that has been the most difficult, is trying to appease an audience that, or a user base that is strictly using products in order to, make some sort of financial, something benefit them. So that's been really frustrating. And then I think on the technology side, um, probably the most challenging thing that I've really dealt with is just how new everything is
Yeah.
from a technology perspective. Luckily, a lot of the technology that, with the EVM and, even with Bitcoin and all, all the decentralized nature of the products and stuff like that, the a lot of it did come from the Web 2 world. Like, it was born of that. When we talk about encryption and we talk about even crypto in general, it was all born of very similar things that we've dealt with authentication in Web 2, or cryptography and that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all very similar, but it's frustrating when you're used to having access to all the data and all the things that you need right at your fingertips in Web 2, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with indexers and Ethereum nodes and decentralized protocols and decentralized file hosting and all that kind of stuff. So, but that to me is also a benefit of Web3 too, right? Like, that also like really sparked my interest in the technology and is what really kept me here. So I think, like I said before, it's a lot of those, a lot of the downsides are also benefits, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you really find that in any industry that you break into. When I started building motorcycles, it was the same thing. Like, I had to learn so much, right? So that's just kind of the enjoyment of the craft and the excitement of being able to do something productive, right?
Yeah, sounds good. So what about, I'm sure, like, being in this space for so long, you definitely had sort of, it is like a roller coaster, and it moves really, really fast. And I think, like, by now we've seen pretty much anything already. And I don't know what else is going to come that will actually kind of really surprise us, because I personally have become a bit numb in terms of kind of getting excited or getting really surprised about no matter how crazy things I'm seeing these days in the space. So from that journey, from that roller coaster ride, which have been your sort of peak moments, the biggest success moments, and then like the biggest failures?
Good question. It's easy to talk about success, right? So I'll do that one
Yeah.
first. I think you touched on it, that not Larva Labs release was really major. I think not only just for our community, but for myself and for Polly, and that really kind of pushed me to another level. It gave me a lot more recognition in the community. It put a lot more trust on my name, and that was really exciting for me for many reasons. When you're a builder and you're not only just a builder, but you're trying to have some sort of a social presence and be a leader of some sort in a community. It really helps when your product launch is successful, and it adds value to great value to your community. So I think that was probably my biggest success in this space. Having said that, I don't think it's the only one, and I think there are several more. I won't get too deep into them, but launching my Floor 8 product was a really big success for me, and being able to mint a ton of access tokens and onboard a bunch of users and build a team and have that team really have major focus on pushing the idea of decentralization and pushing the idea of self-ownership and self-custody and like there's just so many cool things that are, in my opinion, wins, and a lot of the time they're like these small wins that kind of add up to these big ones, right?
Yeah, sure.
But in a sense of like just one big one, I think that was the Not Larva Labs launch. Like that really took it really took the community by storm. It took crypto Twitter by storm, thanks to Polly. Polly's an amazing marketing guy and shit poster, and he knows how to piss people off. He knows all about anti-marketing, and he's great at it, right? So
yeah,
and I have no issues with that. A lot of people have come at me and said, "Hey, why are you friends with Paulie? Why do you work with him? He's your homie." And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Go fuck yourself.
You're staying so neutral in the space, and then you're friends with Paulie. You can't be neutral anymore. It's kind of
yeah, right. That's the look that I'm giving them, like behind my, like, what the fuck? Like seriously, like you you go buy an iPhone, you go eat at McDonald's, you fucking this, that, the other. You don't think that these guys are fucking each other over and assholes, and like this is how the world functions, you know what I mean? It's just because you follow this guy on Twitter or he said something mean about your boyfriend, that you're really pissed off, right? So at the end of the day, I don't really give that much of my time, because it's complete bullshit. It's but yeah, anyway, off that subject. That's an easy subject to get. Like, we could do a whole podcast on that subject, right?
I mean,
so
yeah, maybe we should get him on a podcast one day.
Yeah, you probably should at some point. I think that actually that might help. It might help, but it might kill your brand too. Who knows?
Absolutely, yeah. No one knows. Okay, so the failure.
The failure. I've been super lucky over the past couple years, in the fact that I haven't had massive failures, and I think that is pure luck. I don't necessarily attach that to anything that I've done specifically or done better or different than anybody. I do truly think it's luck. I've been fortunate to surround myself with people that are passionate and encouraging, and that try to, what's the word, like they try to build you up, and Paulie's one of those guys. Like, he really did build me up and help me kind of establish myself, but so many other people did that too, and that's been amazing. But so, having said that, I think some of my biggest failures have been more with myself. It's like more like not taking on larger leadership roles and not putting myself out there enough, and not getting on more podcasts or getting in more Twitter spaces, getting out there more. That's probably, and maybe you can't consider that a failure, but it's really the only thing I can think of, is like, I've been so focused on the technology that I haven't really put a lot of time into some of the other things that I should be doing.
This is a good start, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate public speaking. I'll never go to an NFT conference and speak in front of people, because I just, like, it's cheesy as fuck, first of all. Second of all, it's just not my thing. And I prefer to talk to algorithms than people, right? So that's usually probably what I'll stick to. But Twitter spaces are really important, and also, like, doing what people did for me, encouraging other people to build, and sharing their work, and putting them, giving them that kind of that platform, and enabling them. I think there's a lot more I could be doing of that, for sure. But failures, like, I don't see a lot of things as failures. I see them as learning experiences. So it'd be really hard for me to like choose one specifically.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Well, I think the good thing with these kind of podcasts are that, it's a conversation with one person, and it's less an interview, but rather a conversation. So kind of,
For sure.
I mean, I personally don't consider this being a public speaking, right? It's just me and
No.
you getting together and just having a chat, and then, if some people watch it and enjoy it, great. If they don't, like, we had a nice chat. That's the way I'm
Yeah.
approaching this, to be fair. So no, like, no need to sort of look at it like it's not very serious thing, so to speak. Anyway, let's move to, I to something that I kind of know but don't really know very well. But it feels like the community is very passionate about it. So inscriptions. Explain
Yeah.
me what it is. Like, just in a simple terms, just explain me what it is, because I've seen it all around. I've kind of, looked at it, but I just want to, like, someone to explain it to me in a better way.
Sure. Descriptions are very basic, actually. Anyone that spends more than 5 minutes explaining it to you is over explaining it, which is probably Middlemarch. He's the founder of the protocol. Um, he'll take an hour to explain it when really it only takes 2 minutes. Um, an inscription is a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. That's all it is. It's like me sending you Ethereum, but I'm not sending you Ethereum. I'm sending you data, and
Okay.
I can send you data in basically any form, um, whether it be an image, video, audio, text, etc. Those are all options, and all I have to do is encode that data into the transaction call slot, like the call data slot, and then send that to you. And you now own an inscription, or I can send it to myself, or I can send it to anybody else. So in its basic form, that's all it is it's a transaction. Now, the beauty of the inscriptions protocol is actually, and where the protocol actually lives, is how the data is indexed and the rules that are applied to that data. That's when things kind of get really more exciting about it, right? Um, for instance, there's rules like no duplicates. So if I take that data and I put it into a transaction and I send it to you, and then I do it again and it's identical, the indexer will say, nope, that's a duplicate. We're not indexing it. And then, so really the indexer is the source of truth when it comes to inscriptions, and that's where the magic happens. And I won't go in too in depth on that, but the beauty of this specific protocol is that it's very community involved. And sorry, my kid's crying. I don't know if you can
It's
hear
fine.
her, but the beauty of the protocol is it's very community involved, and Middlemarch, the founder, again, he's been very open to feedback, criticism, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's why it's become so great, is because it's been built by the hive mind, rather than just like one individual, which is another reason why decentralized building is so amazing, right? So that's kind of like a quick overview explanation, but in its essence, it's very simple and nothing too crazy.
Okay, makes sense. So basically, I don't know, like, how do you see this developing further? Like, what's the future of it? Like, how do you envision this kind of, where does it go, essentially?
Yeah, good question. I think inscriptions are also very special because we've been introduced over the past couple of years heavily to smart contracts, and
Mm,
smart contracts add this overhead fee of gas, right? I mean, you're
yeah.
interacting with a contract on the Ethereum blockchain. whether that contract is doing all sorts of math or emitting events or all, whatever, you're paying that fee up front, right? So you're really at the mercy of the developer of that smart contract, whether or not you're going to pay high fees on a transaction or not. And there's some people solving those problems or working towards solving those problems. Escriptions avoid that problem completely, because the only gas you spend on an escription is the amount of data or the bytes in the data slot. You're paying basically to put that on the blockchain, right? And by put that on the blockchain, I mean, like, send a transaction or whatever. So I think that, in my opinion, is a huge benefit to Escriptions. I can inscribe an image like a CryptoPunk for the fraction of a cost of minting one on a smart contract, right? Like fraction, I mean pennies on the dollar, right? So that to me is a major benefit, especially on Ethereum, which we know is a very fee intensive
Expensive,
blockchain,
yeah.
which is by design, right? And is a feature, in my opinion, rather than a bug. But at the same time, like, why would you need a layer 2 if you could do it all on Ethereum mainnet and get away with only paying pennies? So it's at the end of the day, the Inscriptions protocol can be used more as a data layer than anything, which is really cool. It's cool from a builder's perspective. I don't know if it's that cool from a consumer perspective.
I think it all depends. Like, I mean, it's already built. It already has certain benefits, right? And it's already kind of, has these features and potential sort of, things that it could do. So I think from the consumer perspective, right, like, for non-builder, I think it all will depend highly how things move forward and what kind of applications it will have in the future, and what these applications will be bringing as benefit, right? Because, for example, like you mentioned, kind of the fraction of the cost. Obviously, like, I know loads of NFT artists who especially during the hype cycle, they just couldn't afford all these minting fees on Ethereum, right? But then on the other hand, during that period, like, the demand was in Ethereum blockchain. Like, if they would make sales only if it was on Ethereum. Many people didn't even want to look at other chains, although, like, there is tons of really cool art on Tezos as well, for example. But, like, that's not how the market was operating. So for these kind of use cases, obviously, kind of, it completely makes sense. But I think, like, usually, like, me being a non-tech person, when I'm looking at all these new sort of services or products or kind of protocols, I'm just looking at, okay, this is what is it built, how we can use this to leverage or amplify or make better our existing experiences, or what can we do with this that we couldn't do otherwise before it existed, right? That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And I feel like here there is a potential of finding more applications and more use cases for what's already built, and just be kind of modify or built on top of it, I guess. I don't know, like, I'm not a tech person, so I don't know.
No, that's true, and I think that's another benefit of these newer protocols, like the Inscriptions protocol, and another benefit as to building with a community is that you can solve so many problems, right? Problems that we had just a year ago that can be solved by something so basic as the Inscriptions protocol. And basic, it's fairly basic. I don't want to downplay it or make it seem like there was no work put into it, but it is a very basic thing. And there was the hype cycle of smart contracts, and I think that those hype cycles come and go. And I think that the application for smart contracts was never, like, smart contracts weren't made to make NFTs. You know what I mean? Like, smart contracts were created way before NFTs even existed. the standard for, ERC 721 and 1155 were created, with, the CryptoPunks were obviously a major catalyst in the creation of the ERC 721 standard. Was it the right way to, was it the right thing for that? No, I don't think so. I think smart contracts are overkill as far as putting images on the blockchain, especially with the CryptoPunks. Like, the CryptoPunks are 24 by 24 pixelated images. They never even should have lived off the blockchain because they're tiny. So, you think of brands like On-Chain Monkey, for instance. They put their whole collection on the blockchain, and I don't remember how many, but they did their whole collection in one transaction. It's things like that that really push the technology forward, right? Because then you start having people like, okay, that's a cool way to do it, but let's try this way to do it. Let's try this way to do it. Let's try this way to do it. And I think eventually we get to this place where we're creating inscriptions, and we go back to like NFTs or the blockchain in its most simple form. And we were like, okay, guys, now that we've explored all the most complicated options possible, and we've spent billions of dollars selling racist monkey JPEGs to each other, let's bring it all back to the fact that we can just send each other these images in a transaction, and they're immutable. You know what I mean? And they're there forever. The other day, I inscribed a Nintendo ROM, and if you're unfamiliar with what ROMs are, they're basically like a copy of like an old Nintendo game in digital format. And they're just like ones and zeros, basically, right? But I was able to inscribe the ROM, which was like 30 kilobytes. It's tiny. It cost me $2. And I'm able to play the game on my computer without having to own the ROM, without any of that, just by going to a website and loading it from the Ethereum blockchain, and running it in an emulator. And it's an amazing thing, which would have cost, hundreds of dollars to do on a smart contract, right? So there are benefits to all this, and I think that it's really like, we're in a time now, especially with the market kind of being down, where I think builders are just like head down. And I know Middlemarch, Middlemarch is like, you won't even see him unless he's like releasing, version whatever. Like, everyone's heads down building, and
it's
really
good because it's less distraction, so you can't, less noise, less distraction, less hysteric FOMO. So there is more time and space and mind share to sort of focus on actually building, which is really cool, without really kind of getting distracted up right and left. So and it feels like not much is happening these days, apart from maybe meme coins, right? Like, that's kind of the fun side that is still left, kind of. And also kind of the things that seem to still give people opportunities to flip and make money still. At least that's the only thing that I'm seeing at the moment. What are your thoughts about that, and whether do you think it's sustainable and is going to stay for longer, or it's just like a short period of kind of filling the gap before something else comes out?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think history tends to repeat itself, and I feel like this is a bit of a deja vu. We did see a few shitcoin cycles over the past few years, and I think whether people like it or not, shitcoins are here to stay forever. There's never going to be a short supply of scams, and there's never going to be there's never going to be too many of them, and there's never going to be too little of them. I just think the gambler is always going to be using this technology in order to pump their bags and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I don't think that it's going anywhere anytime soon. Is it sustainable? I don't know. What's the definition of that? Because really, like, it seems to me like a lot of people are making a lot of money, and then a lot of people are just getting wrecked and never showing up again. So I think
Yeah.
it's sustainable for a very small group of people. Um, I don't think this is crypto, though. This is not crypto. This is not what crypto is or what it was made for. Is it bad? I don't think so. I think the ecosystem needs a balance, and I think that there's always, a negative to every ecosystem, whether it's crypto or whatever, right?
Mm,
The point really is I think that these ecosystems thrive off off every aspect, not just one. I don't think
mm,
artists made NFTs thrive. I think that the financial incentive of NFTs made it thrive. And I think the
mm,
VC money coming in made it thrive. And I think that the reason it died had nothing to do with Blur, and it had nothing to do with any one individual. I think it had to do a lot with the economy, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that VCs pulled out very quickly when things got a little bit turbulent. And I think once AI started to become popular, that was, this is what VCs do. It's like
yeah.
that history repeats itself. They're just going to jump from one. And next time
Yeah.
crypto is in a state of um, like next time crypto is coming up on a bull market or something, they'll be back. And
Yeah, of course. I mean, they go where the
it's
money
all
is, and I
cyclical.
mean, wherever they can make the maximum amount of money and the maximum amount of returns, that's where they go. It doesn't really matter whether it's crypto or AI or whatever, whichever it
Yeah.
is at that moment,
Hmm.
that's where they go. It's yeah. I mean, that's how they behave usually, and that's yeah, that's the nature of the whole kind of business that they are in general. I mean, we kind of touched this point, but like, we were talking a lot about the things that we don't like, and obviously scams and grifters and fake influencers and kind of, pumpers and dumpers and whatever. All that part is kind of, it's there, it has been there during the whole period. We kind of have it as a given. But are we going to succeed beyond that? Like, is it going to be a time, do you believe, that these players will no longer be getting the attention that they don't deserve, will no longer kind of have the power that they do in order to sort of, shift markets and prices with their tweets and all that stuff? Like, what needs to be done for that dynamic to be kind of, changed, or it doesn't really, I mean, it's not going to happen, it's always going to be like this?
Well, I guess it's a pretty nuanced thing, I think, because and there's probably a lot more to unpack out of that, because in my opinion, most of the grifters from the last bear or bull market are were the people in charge in not the last. I mean the bull market before this one, um, before 2021. I think those grifters were the people that were running companies that were worth millions of dollars, and a lot of them were VCs because they did well, or became VCs because they did well. So I think like our country is run on grifters and scammers. You know what I mean? Our politicians
Mm.
are scamming
Oh yeah.
us. So I think there's so much to that, but I think that as when it comes to like the market cycles and um, whether or not like we're going to see mass adoption. Mass adoption is not on Twitter, and mass adoption is not with Pepe coin or with even an NFT brand like Bored Ape Yacht Club. That's not mass
Mm.
adoption. Mass
Yeah.
adoption is going to happen, and most of the people on Twitter or in crypto right now won't even notice it happening. You see brands like you see brands like Starbucks tokenizing their rewards programs. You
The
see,
Odyssey program, yeah.
you see, I think Target getting into crypto. You see so many brands getting into crypto, and
Yeah.
what they're doing is,
Tomorrowland. Did you know, or did you notice, like Tomorrowland, the
yeah.
last kind of
Hmm.
festival, it was all kind of, NFT based tokenized ticketing system.
There you go, right? And that's really what mass adoption looks like. And all mass adoption is where you replace your old infrastructure with new infrastructure that is based on blockchain technology. That's mass adoption. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to be coming on Twitter and buying shit coins, like your grandma. Like, if you think that you're going to get your grandma to buy a shit coin, and that's what mass adoption looks like, which, by the way, sounds crazy, but that's what a lot of people on Twitter think.
That's
That's nothing, right?
I think we're
That's not
thinking
mass
the other way
adoption.
around, right? I think like people in here, when they talk about mass adoption, they are mentioning usually two things, right? One is quote unquote onboarding, which is like at
Yeah,
this moment it's horrible. Like you can't onboard normies into crypto. It takes forever. It's very complicated. No one really cares. No one really wants to go through that whole nightmare. Let's be honest. And the second thing is education. What people don't realize is that, like, no one cares about the tech and no one cares how it works. Like, no one gives a shit, and they don't even need to be educated about how it works, because in real life, when mass adoption happens, it is about having products and services that you use on daily basis in your life without knowing that there is underlying blockchain technology underneath that, and without
yeah,
changing your lifestyle. Because if, for example, we are thinking that people are gonna, instead of watching Netflix, gonna watch YouTube videos about blockchain, we're delusional. It's never going to happen. If we think that they are going to come and learn how to open wallets, whatever, it's not going to happen. So instead of thinking about how to pull them in, we have to think about how we can integrate into their existing lifestyle and habits, and just make it, like, so user friendly that they don't really change what the way they're doing things. So for example, like, you mentioned Starbucks nowhere in their loyalty program mentions NFTs anywhere. Like, it
smart.
they called them, I think, not stamps, steps or journeys or
Stamps, I
something
think.
like that.
Stamps.
Yeah, so they are not even, using the word NFT. They are not talking about the blockchain technology, any of that, and they're not educating their users about, about that stuff. They're talking about coffee. They're talking about the experiences, about anything else, but no one talks about blockchain in there. So I think, like, the mass adoption thing is completely twisted. The way people imagine it is completely twisted, and that's probably why it's not happening, right? Because all these people are just approaching it from the wrong perspective, and also
It
all the
is
products
happening.
and services. It is happening from, like, not from the
Yeah.
people who
Hmm.
are crying about it and shouting about it, right? Like,
What? Yeah, I don't know what they want. I honestly think that they think that everybody needs to start gambling on shit coins on a daily basis. Like, that's what mass adoption looks like. The only time that shit coins are ever going to become a part of like mass adoption is when Vegas tokenizes everything. That's the only time shit coins are ever going to become mass adopted.
yeah, and then the chips become the shit coins.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that would be a very fast mass adoption with very loyal fan base, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, but they would have no idea, right? And that's the beauty of it. And I think you're absolutely right. Mass adoption comes when the user doesn't even know that the blockchain is powering the back end of their service or their app or their product, right? That truly is mass adoption. And we're starting to see banks do it in fact, actually, there's a Canadian product that I use for my on off ramp called ShakePay, and it's only available here in Canada. But now I can pay my bills. I can pay my what else is there? Bills. Anyway, they added all these features So now I
Mm.
actually don't even have to put my money in my bank account. I can pay my gas or electrical straight from that app, which is pretty wild, right?
I
That's
think it's
that's
cool.
pretty cool, and I think that's a
Yeah.
step towards that mass adoption. Like once I don't need a bank account anymore, um, and I can
Yeah.
just use my crypto wallet, that's really like that to me is like a bullish signal for mass adoption for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you because it's kind of, it helps you bypass that kind of, centralized
Yeah.
authority sort of dependency in there for
Hmm.
sure. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I think it's that's the thing, right? Like, we just need to figure out how, as you said, like, going into Web2, seeing how we can sort of, amplify and enhance the existing experiences by bringing the possibilities that the tech brings. So, like, for example, to me, it absolutely makes no sense why everyone in gaming absolutely hates NFTs. Because, like, it like, to me, like, it completely makes sense, right? It's really like, it's such a good use case and it's exactly for them, right? But somehow, like, the whole narrative and the stories has been twisted so much that they immediately get these defensive reactions into it. But they don't, as you said, they don't even need to know, like, if a big gaming company is just integrated seamlessly and I don't even know about that. But then, they have a self-custodial wallet with all their skins, etc., in it, and no one can take them from them. Like, what can be better? Like, they spent months
Look,
and months chasing those skins anyway. So
Look,
yeah.
whether they like it or not, eventually all their shit is going to be an NFT or on the blockchain, whether it's an NFT or not. It's just the fact of the matter. And I promise you, they won't even know what's happening. They hate NFTs for very good reasons. And most of those reasons I agree with. And from the outside looking in, the crypto space is filled with scams, and so is the NFT space. I mean, you can't convince anybody that a picture of a monkey is worth $1 million because it simply is not. you know
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
so when that's what mass adoption looks like, of course people are going to hate it. It's I hate it. Right,
It's,
so
yeah, I mean, it's just like that kind of, that those memes where kind of, when you think about during the hype cycle, someone would say, oh, I paid 100 ETH for this NFT, and everyone, oh my god, legend, great. And then,
yeah,
someone
right
says,
on.
oh, back in
Yeah,
the days I paid 100 ETH, and what an idiot. It's just
yeah,
it's a matter of perspective, like, depending which cycle you're at, someone is a hero or an idiot. But, like, at the end of the day, there is a reality which is somewhere in between anyway, right? But no one really wants the real picture these days. Like, everyone kind of, wants to push their own angle and their own narratives, and reality checks are painful, and people just don't want to have them. And then the people who are doing the reality checks are the bad ones, because they are fudding the whole thing, they are very negative, and all that stuff. But I think we need those people. We need the people who will come and just tell the things the way they are, so people will finally get that out of that vague me delusional sort of state of mind, or kind of, or the other extreme, like, because the truth is somewhere in between. It's not really so extreme in most cases anyway. So yeah.
yeah. Well, now think about it. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think think about all the people that lucked out on minting a board ape or a rare board ape or minting 100 board apes, are praised as the heroes, right? When in fact,
They
um,
just got
you
lucky.
know, they got lucky. And then the people at the top that maybe purchased these things for $500,000 are still the heroes, but really they're the idiots. So we do operate in an environment where the idiots are celebrated as heroes and the heroes are idiots, right? And like so we live in like this really fucked up environment where it's hard to navigate, like how could I expect anyone that I'm like onboarding into Web3 to navigate this space and know who is a scammer, who is not,
Even
who
we
is,
can't do it, and we're in it
even I
like
can't. Yeah.
24/7, right? It's just,
Yeah.
crazy. Like, I mean, how much money did BitBoy raise? 200K or something like that? What
Probably
is
something
it?
like that.
Like, what is it? Is it the Stockholm syndrome? What is it? Like, to me, it
It's
just doesn't
like,
make sense at all, right? Like,
who
but it is
knows?
what it is, right?
It's probably mental health. I mean, I would assume as some sort of a mental health issue, but um, like the biggest issue, in my opinion, with Web3 is the fact that we've put so many people on a pedestal that do not deserve to be on a pedestal, and
Yeah.
and I think you see that in any industry, whether it be the entertainment industry, even traditional finance industries, like these people are literally criminals, and we've put them on a pedestal, and
Yeah.
we celebrate them, and we celebrate their successes, and we're there for them during their failures, when we can't even do that for the people that we love in our lives, right?
So
So it's
true.
like,
Yeah. So
it's such
true.
a
Yeah.
backwards thing, and again, I think this really does like come full circle to a lot of the reasons why I just try my best to stay out of the craziness, because then I don't put people on pedestals. I don't have these false
Mm.
ideas of what's going on in the space. Like I back off, and when shit happens, I'm just like, yo, that's fucked up. But you guys don't realize how fucked up that is, because you literally live in this echo chamber every
Yeah,
day of your
you're
lives.
in
You
it,
know what I
right?
mean?
Like, you
You're
go
in
to the
it.
same Twitter space like every day for 3 hours. You listen to the same people, to the same conversations, telling the same thing over and over and over again until you start believing it, right? Like, if you
Yeah,
go there and become brainwashed over and over again for weeks and months, eventually you will start thinking that, yeah, this is it. That's the truth, right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so I don't know. And then they guard their Twitter spaces, which is why they do that, right? Like, you go to these Twitter spaces, you will never hear, like, they all have a certain sort of narrative, a certain angle of the way things are, and they have their own truth, and like, you will never hear anyone else tells anything against it or anything different, because they will get booted, right? So
Yeah.
people who go there, they get it's just like media. It's just like kind of, media with their agenda over certain things that they need to feed the public and form an
Yeah.
opinion. Here, Twitter spaces are forming an opinion of the people who are listening to that. So I think, like, yeah, again, because the space is so tricky, just, you need to make sure you have all the information, you get diverse sources, you listen to different opinions, and then you form your own based on your own kind of, I don't know, like, research, expectations, moral compass, and whatever. Like, you gravitate towards people who you resonate with. If you resonate with scammers, fine, but then I have the right to make my own conclusions about what I think about you if I see you with them, right? So it's all about, but then again, it takes so much time to navigate this thing. So probably doing what you're doing and staying away altogether is the better option, I guess.
For sure. It's almost impossible to navigate unless you have like an inside scoop on everything that's going on. But don't get me wrong, I love shit posting. I love making fun of people. I love harassing people, not like sexually or anything, but I like harassing people online, because like that is the nature of the internet.
That's a
There's so
very big
much.
confession, actually, on the record.
Yeah,
So okay.
mostly my friends. Like, you won't find me harassing people in DMs or anything like that. Like, that's offside. But I enjoy like kind of the internet culture, right? And I think
Mm,
internet culture and crypto are so intertwined and
yeah.
like so coupled,
Yeah.
that
Sure.
like that's really what makes crypto exciting, when you get on like ground zero. You know what I mean? You get on Twitter, you get involved, you get into the spaces, you speak, you learn, you whatever. Once you really ingrain yourself in that, I think like there's a lot of fun to be had in this space. And as much as I try to stay away from the craziness, um, I enjoy it. like
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to it. I have alt accounts. So like I enjoy paying attention to it and educating myself on what's going on, coming to my own conclusions, without judgment, of course. But like I have friends on every side of the aisle,
Mm.
and I think I don't know. There's something special about all that. As much as I hate on it, and as much as I think that it's a complete drama show, like there is something very special about it, and there's something very interesting about like watching humans interact, especially when there's finances involved. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm like, it's all in good fun, and I enjoy the internet culture, and I enjoy the crypto culture, and all that good stuff. So. Um, Back to your original question, I think that is a lot of the reason why I'm still around,
You're
right?
still
Is
around.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I've met such amazing people. Even if I don't get along with them, there's just something very unique about them, and
Yeah.
they've become kind of a part of the ecosystem, and they play a role, and that's all there is to it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with me. I have met loads of amazing, really great people. The
Hmm.
only thing that kind of makes me sad is like the greatest people are the ones that are probably more invisible than the others,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Like I would like to flip that around, but like that it is what it is. But yeah, I think this space kind of gives you the opportunity. If you're really kind of paying attention and really want to find good people, you will definitely find them sooner or later, because there
absolutely.
are many. So yeah,
Many.
we've been on for more than an hour. So anything else
Yeah.
to wrap this up? Anything that you would like to
No.
add? No?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your podcast, and I'm stoked to see that you're kind of trying new things in this space. Not new things, because I know you had a podcast before, but maybe
Yeah.
retrying the podcast thing. Um, but I think there's a lot of exciting things going on in this space, regardless of the market not being the greatest right now. I think that we're going to see probably the next year, 6 months to a year of things that are happening are these people are going to be on the forefront of the next bull run, right? I hate
Yeah.
using that word, but uh, when that market hits, I think a lot of us, the people that are still here building, the people that are still here interacting with each other, and creating platforms the way you are, I think we're really going to be the ones at the forefront. And I think that's going to take a lot of um, the negatives out of the picture, right? I
Mm.
think, it being cyclical, I think a lot of the bad stuff is going to come back up, right? Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see kind of a lot of the people that I know are really good people and have good intentions in this space. I'm really excited to see them succeed and do amazing things. And
Yeah.
I'm just blessed to be a part of that, and that's why I appreciate you having me today, and allowing me to answer some questions, and having a conversation with you. Of course, is always great.
Yeah,
So
it was really nice. Yeah, thank you for coming. I think it's really great. This is kind of the relaunch of the podcast and the second season and second episode of the second season. So I'm
cool.
hoping to have much more of those. But yeah, maybe in the future we will have an audience come and engage with us as well, and not just on Twitter Spaces, but like in a more like human way, like all the brave ones who don't worry about showing their faces, like we'll get them over as well. So
That's right.
so yeah, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that, and yeah, have a
Yeah.
nice evening.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks a lot, Annie, and have a good night.